Slavery is back.
Welcome to a place where private business profit from a captive labour force, yet pennies are spent on medical services to a population in which the Indigenous, the poor and the mentally ill are overrepresented. Where isolation, humiliation and degradation are facts of life. Welcome to prison.
It depends who's telling the story, I suppose. The prisoners would have one view, the people who work in the prison system would have another, and I think it's up to people to decide where the truth is.
Give government propaganda and the media spin doctors the flick. And check out Doin' Time for news, views and tunes on prison issues from Guantanamo Bay to Christmas Island to prisons and detention centres everywhere. Every Monday at 4 p.m. on your community radio 3CR.
We are still fired up and we're still talking about revolution.
Hello, welcome to the Doing Time show.
This is 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM on the dial, streaming live on www.3cr.org.au, and it's Marissa and Peter taking you through until 5 o'clock this evening. Last week we interviewed, or one of the people we interviewed was Ian from the Refugee Coalition in New South Wales, and we spoke a lot about Manus Island, and he gave an update about asylum seekers and refugees and looked at the violation of human rights. Today we're going to be continuing our discussion, but we're going to be more specific, and the first interview that's coming up is with the Australian Burmese Rohingya Organisation, and we'll be speaking with Habib, and he's going to talk about Manus Island, and he will also talk about a terrible incident that happened where a refugee deliberately jumped off a bus to his death, and I believe he was travelling on the bus. It's to do with Manus, so we'll speak to him shortly. And then after that, we'll be speaking with Chris from the Campaign Against Racism and Fascism, and we're going to be talking a lot about Milo. Last year, Milo came to Melbourne, and he had a sold-out tour and attracted the nastiest and most committed fascists in Melbourne. And we're going to be talking to Chris about what's happened after that. A lot of protesters were arrested and brutalised by the police last year. And we're going to do a follow-up about that and work out what's happened to the arrestees. And I believe there's also a court case coming up.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll be getting on to Habib with our first interview shortly.
We'll just go to a song. This is Brigitte Hanley with Distant Minds.
And you're back with the Doin' Time show. And we're speaking now with Habib from the Australian Burmese Rohingya Organisation. Hello, Habib. Welcome to the program.
Yeah. How are you? Everyone good?
Good. It's lovely to have you. And as I said off air, Peter's here as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I was wondering, Habib, if you could just talk a little bit about your organisation and what exactly does your organisation do to support refugees?
We are a new organisation founded after 2012 and based in the southern Melbourne. And generally we provide support is like providing recommendation letter and making recreation or gathering or like information sharing. That is the best that we are doing. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now that's good to spread awareness, isn't it?
Yeah.
So can you tell us what happened? Apparently, a Rohingya man deliberately jumped to death from a moving bus on Manus Island. Is that right?
Yeah, because like other detainees, like the people who are refugee and coming to seek asylum in the first country, so they've been pushed back and transferred to Pacific, the island detention center, and that is like not processing center. It is like punishing the people and locking up the people in there. And there is no determination that where they will be settled or where they will be sent to or what happened to them. So it is not 1 year, 2 years. It is like 4 or 5 years, and still they don't know where they're going to go to. And then what happened to them? And then the people are not criminal, and then they seeking asylum is also legal. The PNG court has already found since 2016 that has been Supreme Court has already found detention in PNG is illegal, and then the contractual that Australia has that been over. So within that time period, so they should be settled. Their cases should be settled, but we don't find that kind of not given that kind of solution. So UNHCR has not interfered enough in that cases.
Yeah.
So the people has no other way alternative except from finishing by themselves. So some has taken their life. So that is like the 7 numbers in there. And so this is the first case of the Rohingya Burmese. Yeah.
It's really horrible, isn't it, Habib? I mean, on Manus, there's been a lot of mental health problems as a result of this, and this man apparently was in his early 30s and had been there for 5 years.
Yeah, of course, because the Rohingya people, they came from transit country like Thailand, Malaysia after they spent long time in there, and they don't find they can settle to anywhere or they can stay in there. So life is not there. Their life is not secure, and then there is no protection in there based on that because those transit countries are not signatory to the Refugee Convention. So they left their family and kid behind, and they hopefully they could find a place in a safe territory in the country of first asylum seeking. So they just headed to Australia, and then unfortunately then he been transferred to there. So the back experience, what they have trauma and torture, what they have faced in Burma, and then again they face similar type of the torture and detention in there. So that is really horrible. Of course, that is the root causes of mental illness. Even you have medical center or whatever mental services you are providing there, but that is not solution because the root causes that is causing them mentally seriously harm to them.
It's really disgusting, Habib. Can you just tell us a little bit about, because honestly, I don't think a lot of this has been in the mainstream media too much. Can you tell us a little bit about the Rohingyas and a bit about the background of what happened with them?
Yeah, the Rohingya people in Burma has been facing long-term persecution and then the ethnic cleansing and slow genocide since as early as from 1962. We have the crisis from 1978, again in 1992, 91, and again in 2012, again in 2017, just August, repeated again. So the more than 90 people, or just 90% of population, has been completely wiped out, and their family member, their parents, their siblings, they've been brutally killed and slaughtered, and their houses, their property has been looted and burned down to the ground. So there is the government also not recognized the existence of the Rohingya people living in Burma. So we are treated very badly as not even foreigner, as a less human being. Even foreigner will not be treated in that way. That's why the Rohingya people have started fleeing Burma for their life. So the Rohingya people are Burma first refugees, and then they don't find any other alternative solution or resettlement or any other thing. So they've been languishing in those transit countries like Bangladesh and Malaysia, Indonesia for a long time, not just recent years. So there has been already second and third generation in there.
So despite the ethnic cleansing, Australia refuses to take responsibility for the Rohingya people and indeed for all asylum seekers, even though they are meant to be paying for all this offshore processing. And there's not even any essential services on Manus Island, is there?
Yeah, it is true because the Australia has already hand off after the contract agreement with PNG and Nauru, so the people has been kept in there for years. So that means once the people has been taken very far from Australian community, that means we don't know what's been going on in there. So of course the services providers are not enough in there, very poor possibly, and also because of Rohingya people have to come to Australia or going out for secondary migration because as you see, even they are first Burma refugee and living in transit country for long years, they never got chances of resettlement. So that's why they have to take their risks in their hand and jumping onto the boat and going to wherever they can. So that is the main thing that why they have to come to Australia.
Absolutely. And in fact, I believe that a worker from the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre saw this man on Manus, and apparently he was eligible for resettlement in the United States, and there'd been no progress. And he just got upset. You know, he got developed a lot of mental health issues and jumped.
Yeah, since Liberal government came into power, so there has been agreement has been signed with U.S., but that is between two governments. The actual progress is not down in the detention center there. So even we've been listening this deal. Well, it's been more than 3 years now. So and then taking the number is also very less, and then the progress is very slow, and that been not informed to the people. So that was the main reason, and then the process of refugee claims that are not done fairly. That is very clear. So they have no legal representative, or they have the interview has been not done properly. So there are a lot of legal support, and then many other issues as well. There is a big gap in there. So the people don't know their future and what will happen to them. They are not well informed. So that is the reason that the people are taking their own life.
Exactly. Thank you so much. And in fact, let's talk about his health. I mean, Doctors for Refugees said that they'd been in contact with the man and they'd written to the Immigration Department. Can you talk a little bit about his health and what happened there?
What I can say surely is like Australia has taken this man back to Australia for medical treatment. That means since then his mental illness has been like a very high, serious issue. That's why Australian government allow him to be medically treated in Australia, but then send back him to there again. And also Human Rights Watch, and then we have many other legal experts, and also the United Nations. They already have alarmed the mental illness, and then there are serious issue that's going on in there. So since then, the Australian government have to looking those vulnerable cases. And UNHCR has to interfere on that kind of humanitarian crisis as well.
Yeah. And in fact, there's been quite a lot of coverage in the media. I believe there was an article recently in the Sydney Morning Herald, and apparently Habib, the man, had temporal lobe epilepsy. He suffered uncontrollable seizures once or twice a month. He suffered renal problems and urinary incontinence. I mean, seriously, that's
that is
ridiculous.
true. That one of his detainees friend has told he is suffering from epilepsy. But as you know, in the Pacific Detention Center, the medical services there are some kind of serious mental or they are physical health issues. So there is no the proper treatment, or there is not enough facility to treat this kind of serious cases. That's why the man has been allowed to get medical treatment in Australia. But it was very sad that this man has been sent back to there.
It's terrible, and in fact, there's been lots of statements from many organisations, hasn't there, Habib? Indeed, Amnesty International said that this is the 7th death of a refugee on Manus Island. Yeah.
It is true. It's true. Yeah, very sad. We feel same thing, like, because this guy have the 3 kids left behind and wife. So, and been away from family like more than 5 years, and then he been locked up in there for 5 years, like just for seeking asylum, not committed any kind of crime. So it is really bad that we hear this sorrow news. Absolutely
terrible. Habib, can you just give us a website or somewhere where listeners can find out more about your organisation?
Our organization is www.abro.org.au.
Habib, thank you so much for coming onto the program. It was really great talking to you.
All right, thank you.
We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Habib.
Take care.
Bye.
And that was Habib from the Australian Burmese Organisation, speaking about many issues in regards to Manus Island, and in particular of a man who deliberately jumped off a bus to his death. And lots of really horrible violations of human rights there. It's approximately 4:19, and I believe, Peter, you played a song previous to that by Bridget Hanley.
Yeah.
And I think they're an Australian band.
Yeah, Bridget
Hanley. That's fantastic. So, pretty soon we're going to be speaking with Chris, and we going to put on some music, Pete?
I'll just put on like Us Mob. The song's called Genocide. It's from the Us Mob.
Australia is a crime scene. It's unfinished business is crime. People don't understand that it was a military exercise. It was military in the First Fleet. It was Captain James Cook. It was Captain Arthur Phillip. Right through the history of Australia, it's a military exercise. Our people have suffered greatly because the white man is not prepared to act honourably and legally. It's still the case in this country today.
This is 3CR.
And you're with 3CR 855 AM. It's a Doing Time show. I'm Pete. Just remember that the radio find's coming up the 4th to the 17th of June. And you can donate to us or whatever show you want to do. So remember that. We'll just go back onto another announcement.
We know you love our 3CR Radical Radio t-shirts, and so do we. They're a bargain at $20 for adults and $15 for kids, and come in black, white, grey, and a cool light blue. To nab one of these beauties, drop into the station at 21 Smith Street or order by phoning 9419-8377. Or you can visit us online at 3cr.org.au/shop. Come on, you know you want one.
And you're back with the Doing Time show. And we're now speaking with Chris from the Campaign of Racism and Fascism. Welcome to the program, Chris.
Hi there, how's it going?
Yeah, not bad. Chris, thanks so much for coming on to the show. Just wanted to get an update from you about what's going on with I suppose a follow-up in regards to what happened last year with Milo, how he came out here and then the police brutalised the protesters. And what's happened since then?
Well, since then, the main thing that's happened is there were some arrests after the demonstration, and the far right. There were arrests on the side of the far right, but as you might expect, but there were arrests on our side as well. And so there's a court date which is coming up for our comrades, which is on the 7th of June. So that's their kind of first appearance at the Magistrates Court. And so what we're doing is we're calling on anti-fascist, anti-racist, and so on to come and stand in solidarity with our comrades who are there. So we're organising a little kind of solidarity demonstration outside the court.
Fantastic. Now, sorry, I should correct. I hope I said the campaign against racism and fascism, did I?
Yeah, that's what we are.
Oh, good. Did I say for? Yeah. Oh, no.
No, it didn't mean.
I don't remember, but we're definitely.
No, I think it's okay. But yeah, I didn't mean that. If I did say that,
yeah,
it's the campaign against racism and fascism. Chris, can you tell us just a little, just so that listeners are aware, just some background of what happened last year, and just give us a little bit of a picture, if you like. On what happened last year, what the arrestees were charged for, and when the court cases are.
Yeah, so in terms of what happened last year, so basically, I mean, it's important, I think, to because the way it's often presented is that, these are just two sides that are kind of just engaging in riotous behaviour. But I think it's important to explain what happened. So Milo Yiannopoulos, the far-right provocateur, was touring Australia. And so we, in the campaign against racism and fascism, thought, we have to call a demonstration against this guy when he's coming to town. And what we were planning to do was just have a peaceful demonstration, a show of solidarity with, targets of Milo's hate speech, Muslims, migrants, women, the LGBTI community, and so on. And so there was a lot of, faffing around on their part. They couldn't find a venue. And so what they eventually, at the 11th hour, they did find a venue, which happened to be across the road from, public housing flats in Flemington and Kensington. Now, this is a very, very multicultural, very diverse area, and a lot of the residents of these flats are, recent migrants, particularly recent African migrants, Muslims, refugees, and so on. So they're also, kind of independently of Milo and the far right, there are also people who we know are routinely targeted by the police through racial profiling and so on. So these are some of the most, in terms of Melbourne, these are some of the most depressed communities. And, Milo and his crew decided to host their meeting, 3 sold-out shows right at the doorstep of these flats. And so we came down our solidarity rally, I think, kind of had even more importance in this context. And so we held a demonstration, which before it even began, really, Neil Erickson, a far right kind of, I don't know what you'd call him, far right personality, I guess, and his crew, yeah, exactly, yeah, kind of invaded our protest, tried to start fights and so on, and then they were kind of removed by the police. But what happened, though, over the course of the evening, was some of the residents from the flats saw that there was a commotion downstairs. They came down, and when they realised what was happening, and they saw that there were actual people on their doorstep, white nationalists, people with Trump Make America Great Again hats, the far-right Zionist, the Yemeni was there, people with, actual neo-Nazis and so on, like this motley crew of the far right, basically, were at their doorstep. They started joining in the protest and, in fact, started leading some of the protests. So, they kind of took megaphones off us. They led the chanting. They led the marching and so on. And it was a really incredible event. So that's kind of what happened. The aftermath, though, the police response, I think it's worth talking about that, was incredibly heavy-handed. They came with shields, they came with batons, they came with pepper spray. It's something that we're increasingly noticing, that the police are, coming, fully, with kind of increasingly new weaponry every time we come to these protests. Yep. So they came out in force, and they continued to harass, the residents of the flats well into the night. So that was their response. But I think overall, it was actually a really important statement to make, and it was an important protest to have. But the aftermath of that now is that some of our comrades and some of the residents from the flats are going through like a court procedure.
A court procedure, even though they were the ones harassed. Wow.
Sorry?
And what were the charges? Yeah. What were the charges?
The charges, I think, I can't remember exactly what
That's
they are.
Okay.
I think it's stuff to do with, I guess, like kind of disorderly behaviour. Something along those lines. I can't remember the exact charges.
Despite the fact that they were peacefully protesting. I mean, the thing that I find interesting, this is a completely different perspective that I'm hearing from you, because I find it interesting that on the TV they only show the violence, and they show that people are just hitting each other and beating each other up, and it shouldn't be about that. It's all that rhetoric, isn't it? And doesn't really discuss the background behind it and the fact that the fascists are actually being protected by the police.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you have to say as well that the most violent group at that demonstration was Victoria Police. by far. They were the ones, like I said, they were the ones with the shields, they were the ones with the batons, they were the ones charging into the crowd. And they were the ones protecting the fascists, which is what that's what they always do at these demonstrations. And so that's where the kind of the violent kind of aspect comes. They were the most violent group, but I think it's also worth saying that some of the residents from the flats, obviously, they pushed back as well. But I think that in the context where there was, far right, white nationalists, fascists at their doorstep, where there was the police protecting them, this is the same police force that routinely harasses these residents through racial profiling. It's something that we, are pretty familiar with. I think it was, stand in solidarity with those residents, who are, defending themselves against what I think is, a systematic kind of violence from the state and from the far right.
Hey, I don't want fascists in my hood. I'll be doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
This happened last year, and so in case listeners are not aware, Milo Yiannopoulos he had a tour, and he actually said dreadful things, didn't he? About different minority groups.
Yeah, so dreadful that even Andrew Bolt, who was hosting one of his events, said that it was too much.
Oh,
he talked about...
Really?
He said awful comments about refugees and Muslims and so on. It's the thing that, if anyone's familiar with his rhetoric, it's something that you would expect. But I think that the more glaring thing about the situation, though, is that, and the importance, I think, of why we have our campaign is it's not just about Milo Yiannopoulos.
No.
But it's about the people that go along to these meetings. So his tour was sold out. 10,000 people around the country thought it was worthwhile paying, $100 a pop to go and see this guy. So that's 10,000 people who think, far-right ideas, they're okay. So that's what our protest was about as well. It was about sending a message to some of those people that if you want to associate yourself with the far right, with fascists, that's your prerogative. But there's going to be a protest, there's going to be a counter-protest every time, and there's going to be groups of people who will come out and, organise against you every single time you decide to rear your head. So that was actually the point of the protest as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and one of the things is that everybody has a different reaction. It is good to participate in these anti-racist protests against what's happening, but some people don't want to go to those protests. Some people are not equipped for that, and they like to do stuff behind the scenes instead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a role for anyone who's anti-racist or anti-fascist to take part. Whether it should be through, for example, we've got a protest coming up on June 24 against some of the far right here in Melbourne. But in the meantime, there's things that we're organising, like we're organising poster runs through particular neighbourhoods. We're organising publicity, putting up stickers and that sort of thing. So there's actually a role for anyone, to play in all of that. If people don't want to take part in, the kind of confrontational protests or anything like that, no one has to. But I do think that the protests are important. They've been a really important part of the campaign. They've been important, if we think back to when the campaign was first started in 2015 against what was then called Reclaim Australia. At their height, I think their first protest managed to get about 2,000 people along at Federation Square. Yeah. Well, today Reclaim Australia doesn't exist. They're not getting thousands of people along to their protests, and I think you have to credit a big part of that to the fact that we had a campaign that was willing to be confrontational, was willing to be controversial, it was willing to call these people out and say, you're not just people who are concerned mums and dads, the way they tried to portray themselves. You're associated with the far right, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And if you continue to come out and mobilise as Reclaim Australia or as the True Blue Crew or the United Patriots Front, whatever it is, then we're gonna point that out. We're gonna call you fascist. We're gonna call you the far right, and we're gonna keep coming out until we want to see the end of fascism. We want to see the end of racism, and so we're going to keep doing that.
I mean, it's really interesting, and I'm sorry to mention this, but I feel like I need to put a historical context and have a look at what happened with the Holocaust. I mean, you know, when the economy goes down, that's when people like Hitler come into existence, isn't it? Because people get frightened.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a factor. I mean, there's obviously a lot of factors, and you know, the 1930s and World War II and the Holocaust. Obviously, there were a set of it's a very unique historical situation, but I think that the trends are definitely there today. So you can see, you know, economic crisis does plunge people into misery, but also I think that you have to say that the mainstream political parties play an enormous role in contributing to the rise of the far right. It's for the last 30 years, the last few decades of neoliberalism, we've seen the two main parties, not just in this country but across Europe, the United States, and so on, move increasingly to the right. Like just recently, for example, the Labor Party state conference. You had Bill Shorten get up and announce that the Labor Party supports boat turnbacks. They're continually trying to outdo each other.
When was that?
It was just over the weekend. So
what did he say?
He got up to the state Labor conference and said that the Labor Party supports boat turnbacks and supports keeping the current kind of offshore detention and immigration policy intact.
Wow.
So
I saw that.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. I mean,
that is deplorable.
And that's the political climate, that it's moving more and more to the right, and that's not being pushed. You know, the far right obviously benefit out of that, but that's being pushed primarily by the mainstream parties, paving the way for these sorts of ideas to get a hearing. So I think that's the really key factor here, is that we need a political alternative to kind of, the mainstream kind of right-wing, racist, race to the bottom, which is what we get at the moment.
Absolutely. Chris, I'm wondering if you could just give the date of the court cases,
sure.
Where the arrestees are going, and also the date of the protest as well, and where it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So the court case is on the 7th of June, so that's a Thursday, and it'll be in the morning. So we're saying, I think at this stage, 8:30 a.m., but people should check the Facebook page out. It's just Campaign Against Racism and Fascism. You can find us on Facebook and stay in touch. And then we have our counter mobilisation, our big protest, which is coming up on June the 24th. That's against a collection of far right groups which are called an Australian Flag Pride March. So that's Sunday, June 24th, and that'll be in the Melbourne CBD. So people should check that out.
And the court case will be at the Magistrates Court?
That's right, the Melbourne Magistrates Court, which is on William Street, I believe.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Look, Chris, thank you so much for coming onto the program. It's been really important, isn't it, to have this discussion? And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can have you back on at some stage to follow up.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks a
lot.
lot.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
Cool. Thanks, mate.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And we were speaking to Chris from the Campaign Against Racism and Fascism. And it is a terribly important discussion, isn't it, really? It's 4:41 and you're listening to the Doing Time Show.
Do you want to go to a song? Or do you want to... All right. This is Rory Ellis with Remember.
From the dust to the...
Able-bodied Australia does not realise that people with disabilities across the board are being discriminated against. Then the government to demand that we go out and get a job without removing the disincentives like the lack of access to transport and community infrastructure, without providing accessible buildings that can provide barrier-free employment. I'm not getting a fair go, and I don't like it, and I'm saying so.
You're back with the Doing Time Show, and it's approximately 4:47. And just as a very short tribute to Sorry Day, which actually happened on Saturday, the 26th of May, The Doing Time show does a lot of stuff on Sorry Day for the whole year anyway, but unfortunately we couldn't get any elders in today. But I thought that I'd read out an article from the Age newspaper, just about Sorry Day. So it's entitled Sorry Day Monument Honours Stolen Generation, Marks Meeting Place. And I'll just start. Taljim Choco Howard Edwards' life story is told in his 3 first names. Taljim is the blackfella name he gave himself in honour of his great-grandfather and Tangjerem Man. These were the people from whom Uncle Edwards and his 5 siblings were taken in 1956 when he was a 7-year-old boy living on the banks of the river at Marupana, just outside of Shepparton. Taljim Choco Howard Edwards in Atherton Gardens was in Atherton Gardens on Sorry Day for the unveiling of a monument to the stolen generation of which he is a part. And there's also some photos as well. Choco was given him by his mates in the institutions in which he has spent much of his life. 7 children's homes across Victoria, including the Ballarat Orphanage and Bayswater Salvation Army, and 8 prisons, among them Pentridge, Bendigo and Geelong. Howard is his flash whitefella slave name. I answer to the 3 of them. They've just been my life of being separated, he said. Uncle Edward's story is a big one, full of heartache and sorrow. Artist Recco Rennie behind the spears of the monument in Atherton Park that he designed and created. I was just describing a photo there. It is also full of adventure and involves a stint in the Merchant Navy with a journey that involved stops in South Africa, Saudi Arabia and England, and ended with him being unceremoniously dumped in Sydney. Excuse me. In Sydney after getting into a fight or 2 along the way. Then there are his decades-long stints in and out of jail for a string of offences, among them vagrancy. They called me a vagrant on my own land, he said. In between and after his stints in jail, Uncle Edwards joined the Parkies in Atherton Park, Gertrude Street. As it was for many of the stolen generation, it was a place for him to connect with the family and community from whom he was taken. Local Indigenous identity and member of the stolen generation, Uncle Jack Charles lays a purple flower in the sculptured column. And so Saturday was an emotional day for Uncle Edwards as he joined the crowd of several hundred at Atherton Park on Sorry Day for the unveiling of a new sculpture to honour him and other members of the stolen generation. Artist Recco Rennie said Remember Me told a deeply personal story for him too. His grandmother was taken from her home on Kamilaroi country near Waglet, aged 8, never to see her family again. In Remember Me, 2 boomerangs formed chairs looking onto 10 spears and at their feet a Coolaman. He said the monument represented more matriarchy, family and strength in Aboriginal culture. We are a strong people, he said. Look at what we've survived. Sue Ann Hunter and her daughter, Jeddah Peden. The artist said his work carried a message for future generations who still felt the reverberations of a policy which ripped families apart. I'm a parent, I have a 14-year-old daughter, and you think about your own children and having one of your children taken away, or multiple children taken away and never see him again, of them being disposed of land and culture, Mr. Rennie said. For others, the monument will continue an important tradition which has seen Atherton Park listed on the Victorian Aboriginal Heritage Register. Wurundjeri elder Colin Hunter said it was a meeting place for the Victorian Aboriginal community in the tradition of Redfern in Sydney and Musgrave Park in Brisbane. When blackfellas from all over the country come to Melbourne looking for people, they come here to Atherton Gardens, he said. There is a lot of history here. There's literally hundreds of stories of people finding family here and finding community in this space. Local Indigenous identities Ross and Luke Sultan. For others, the monument would also be a place to be alone. Now CEO of Victorian Aboriginal Community-controlled health organisation, Ian Ham was taken from his Yorta Yorta family as a boy. Today is not a difficult day for me. Today is a good day, he told the crowd. It's every other day that can be a hard day. Mr. Ham said it was ordinary days and unexpected moments when he was hit by a wave of emotion and a reminder of the life he might otherwise have had. In those moments when somebody like me, And there are many faces in the crowd who I know this might happen to, who just want to go somewhere, sit there and just feel, maybe cry. And this will be the place that we come to do that. And, yeah, so that's the end of that article. And I'm actually quite impressed by The Age. That's a really powerful article.
Yeah, true.
Very powerful indeed. And it does talk a lot about Atherton Park, which I'm quite disappointed I missed. Atherton Gardens. I'm quite disappointed I missed out on that. Thank you so much, Peter, for emailing me that article. And we were able to read that out on the Do and Time show.
Yeah, that was I went there yesterday. Saturday.
Did you?
And it was quite moving for lots of people. Even though I'm a white fella, but it was really moving to hear Culture Edgewater tell his story about, his just tell his story, and to hear lots of other stories and be amongst the people of this land, and the smoking ceremonies was beautiful, and yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And they had quite a few some music. It went from 3 till 5, didn't it, Peter?
Yeah.
And then there was music after that.
Yep.
It's approximately 3:53, and we're nearing the end of our show. Beyond Zero will be up soon, but I thought we could go with another announcement, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
We know you love our 3CR Radical Radio t-shirts, and so do we. They're a bargain at $20 for adults and $15 for kids, and come in black, white, grey and a cool light blue. To nab one of these beauties, drop into the station at 21 Smith Street or order by phoning 9419 8377. Or you can visit us online at 3cr.org.au/shop. Come on, you know you want one.
And you're back with the Do and Time show. And Peter was initially talking about Radiothon early on in the show. And just a reminder in case listeners have just tuned in, this is the Do and Time show, 3CR. And we've got our Radiothon coming up from the 4th of June onwards. Can't remember the end date, but it goes for about 2 weeks.
17th of June.
17th of June. So the 4th of June until the 17th of June. And it's that time of year now where people need to donate. We're asking people to donate to keep the radio shows on air for another year.
So when's the Do and Time show one?
The Do and Time show is... Radiothon show is on the 11th of June, the Monday.
Okay.
And our target is $850. So people can donate before the 30th of June, and they can get a tax deductible. It's tax deductible from $2 onwards.
Yeah.
So that'd be lovely if people could donate. We actually provide a lot of media that you don't hear on the mainstream media.
Yep.
It's approximately 4:55, and we've got about 2 minutes left of the show. Tune in every Monday from 4 till 5 for the Do and Time show. Thank you to our guests. And in fact, I think, the first guest wasn't Victorian, was he? I believe Habib was from the Australian Burmese Organisation from New South Wales. And then we had Chris, and he from Victoria.
Cool.
And we're going to be going out now with our theme song, Black Fella, White Fella, from the Rumpy Band.
See you all.
See ya.